This week in 3D Archery, I'm diving back in this whole controversy I started about instructions. Hey everybody, welcome to 3D Archery. Greg here. I posted on Facebook, got pushback, and now my video about the 5 things I learned about barebow archery, I'm getting pushback because I complained that I bought a plunger and a rest and they didn't have detailed instructions, and people are just going crazy, and it makes me laugh. They're defending it. You know, one guy goes, you don't buy a plunger unless you know you need one and how they work. What? Give me a break, right? It's not true. You buy things because you need them or somebody tells you you need them. And he goes, well, most things don't come with instructions. Okay. Well, my mouse does. My wife's subscription to the wine club has instructions. That for my flight. My my Canon camera. Now, you don't need instructions on how to use a camera, right? No, you don't. Instructions. My Ryobi table saw. Instructions. Here's a simple one. Why would you need instructions on how to work a power vacuum? Has an on switch. But look what I got. Instructions. Instructions are everywhere. You get instructions all the time. This video is about this little book here. Came with every bow offered by Ben Pearson, and it takes you step by step through the shooting process, what you need to do. But they don't do that. Most people do. Look at my video on my Samick Sage clone. Came with a beautiful set of instructions how to set it up and use it. So it's out there, right? So kick back and let's see how they taught us how to do things in the good old days. All right, buddy, third thing we're going to do is look at the cover. To the right is the front, to the back is the back of it. Let's try that again. All right, everybody, the first thing we're going to do is look at the cover. The right side is the front and the left side is the back. But you can see how the design is supposed to be opened all the way up. So in the front, nice clear title, Archery Made Easy. He's selling his bow, so of course he's going to put his name on it. And on the back it says, Archery is for everyone. They're talking about inclusion. Look. Mom and dad, brother and sister, right? You can see the copyright date, it's 1954. I know they used this all the way up into the 60s because mine for 1962 had this exact same pamphlet included in it. So what is the very first thing they cover? Well, how to string your bow. That's on pages 2 and 3, right? So, what does it tell you? Well, nice and simple. Stringing the bow is pretty simple. Now you can see where they're doing a recurve and a long bow, but they call it a recurved bow and a straight bow. Now, I know a lot of people say the recurved method's not right. You can twist your bow and all that stuff. But they were doing this since the 50s. And this is how my dad taught me to do it in the 70s. So it's got to be worth something, right? So that's it. The first 2 pages, how to string your bow. All right, on the next 2 pages, we got a couple of subjects. One is the arrow knocking point, how to knock the arrow, the proper stance, and drawing the bow. So up first, let's look at arrow knocking point. It says, the point at which the arrow is fitted on the string is called the knocking point. It should be located so that the arrow is at right angles to the string when it is knocked at this point and passes over the arrow plate or top of the bow handle. This point is easily located by folding a piece of paper over the string, letting the even edges pass over the arrow plate. The proper spot on the string can be marked as illustrated. Now that's pretty interesting. I never heard this method or used this method. Personally, I just put my arrow on it. But then I measure it and play around with it and adjust it from there. But that's pretty cool. So there's another way how you can find your knocking point. And I don't mean just Jeff Krug on YouTube either. Although you should check out his channel. It's better than mine. So the next thing is how to knock an arrow. Now they tell you to hold the bow horizontally in front of the body with the left hand. Arrow plate up. Holding the arrow by the knock between the thumb and forefinger, place across the serving of the string and arrow plate on the bow. Turn the arrow until the cock feather, the one perpendicular to the nock, is upmost and pull the nock back over the string at the nocking point. The string should be served at the nocking point to provide a snug but not tight fit for the arrow nock. Fingers are placed around the string, allowing resting lightly between the first and second fingers. 3 fingers should be hooked around the string in the first joint, and all should take an equal portion of the weight when the draw is made. Now you notice he only covers split finger and not 3 under. So the next thing to cover is the proper stance. There are several points to concentrate on in proper shooting. They are standing in the proper stance, drawing, anchoring, aiming, holding, loosing, and following through. In the proper stance, the feet are comfortably apart and astride the shooting line, with weight evenly distributed on both feet. The body is comfortably erect and facing at right angles to the target. The head is turned to see the target over the left shoulder. Try to accomplish an easy, natural stance. Mark the toe position if using a point of aim, which tells you to see page 8 for that. So here's the big one. They even tell you how to draw the bow, right? It's a pretty good one too. Got some illustrations, halfway to draw, full draw. Here is what they tell you to do. The bow handle rests lightly in the left hand, never gripped, against the base of the thumb and is held in place by the tension of the draw. The fingers are placed lightly around the handle, just to keep the bow from falling when the arrow is released. The bow arm is extended toward the target and is slightly bent at the elbow to allow proper clearance for the string. Then with fingers of the drawn hand hooked properly in the bow, see page 4, pull back steadily. In drawing, it is highly important that the hand and forearm act as a connecting link between the bowstring and the shoulder muscles, which actually do the pulling. The fingers and hand are relaxed to effect the proper release. There should be no muscular action in them or the forearm. Let the shoulder and back's muscles do the work. The elbow should be level with the shoulders. Here you go, boys and girls. 1954, they're telling you, don't draw with your hand, draw with your back. So up next is anchoring. Now, the first thing you see in the picture, it looks like he's using an Olympic anchor. Let's see what they say about it. It's very important that the drawing hand be anchored in exactly the same manner and place for each shot. But what about these people that love floating anchors? The hand is anchored against the jaw and neck in a manner to allow the forefinger to rest under and against the chin with the string at or near the middle of the chin. This locates the back end of the arrow in proper alignment under the right eye. That's what they do in Olympic archery, and they've been doing that since the 50s. Now, does it apply today? Well, that's a different story, because I think, people change and grow, and I don't know if they knew it back then or not, but I know some people were doing it. So up next is aiming and holding. Notice he didn't talk about instinctive, but I believe he does later on. Right? In aiming, keep both eyes open if possible, since the vision is much clearer if you do. The top of the bow is canted slightly to the right. This allows line of vision to pass from the right eye barely to the left of the string over the top of the arrow and to the point of aim. The line of vision can be just to the right of the string if the bow is held perfectly vertical. Align the arrow properly with the point of aim, which should appear to be sitting directly on top of the arrow tip. Hold long enough to be sure of this alignment. What? No snap shooting? Do not let the arrow creep forward. The arrow must be kept fully back as shown in illustration above. If the arrow is drawn back just far enough to barely see the edge of the left forefinger over the tip, a constant draw length can always be acquired. This is very important. That's pretty good. That's some good stuff right there. It gives a person, I think, a good base to start from. He is telling you to aim. But you notice how he didn't say how to aim, so they should be covering that later on. Right? The big one, the release. This should be good. The arrow is loosed or released by simply allowing the 3 drawing fingers to relax, thus letting the string slip away and propel the arrow. This should be done without allowing the arrow to creep forward. even as much of an eighth of an inch prior to release, and without any other movement than the relaxation of the drawing fingers. Of course, there will be natural involuntary reaction to the loosening of the arrow, but this takes place after the arrow has sped on its way and the shot is not affected. The archer should follow through or hold his stance until the arrow has struck. Yeah, I don't do that. This prevents his getting into the habit of making prior movements that would spoil the shot. So now they covered how to shoot bow very quickly. Let's see what they got to say on other stuff. So on page 8, we have serving the bowstring. To protect the string from wear, it is wrapped or served at the place where the fingers contact it in shooting, and for an inch or 2 on either side. The serving is usually made of hard woven cotton. Well, you can tell that's old. Or linen thread. Number 6, 8, or 10. To start serving, one end is wrapped under the serving, and the other end is likewise wrapped under by using the method as illustrated above. Draw tight and cut flush with wrapping. Yeah, I don't think we do that, and that is a pretty advanced thing for a beginner to be doing. Up next, we get the good one, adjusting the bowstring. This is the old ones where they actually used what they call Boyer string, I think. Bowstrings that have one built-in loop are called single loop strings. I was always taught it's a Boyer string. They have the particular advantage of being easily adjusted to varying bow lengths and to the exact height distance from the bow handle of the string when the bow is braced. This height should be about 1 fist meal, distance from the inside of the hand to the tip of the extended thumb. And that's old school. Double loop strings may also be adjusted to a certain extent by twisting or untwisting a string. Yeah, okay. I only thought Boyers did it, but you know what? I guess back then it might have been an advantage for people. I know when I built my bows, I used it for the rough one before I put a real one on, and they shot, pretty good. Now, the next one I really find interesting because I'm fascinated by all the different ways there are to aim. And it just shows you the variety out there. There's so many ways that you can do it. So in this pamphlet, they call point of aim method. And you can see illustrations off to the left here. Use the rangefinder to locate point of aim. Aiming using the point of aim method. Let's look it up. So first is the point of aim method. And there's a little illustration underneath it. Since the nock of the arrow is anchored under the chin, the archer cannot look along the shaft as he would a gun barrel in aiming, but must look over the point of the arrow. Thus, an angle is formed between the line of vision and the path of the arrow must follow going to the target. This illustration shows how this can be taken advantage of in target shooting at fixed distances. A sight, point of aim, is placed on a spot on the ground found by trial and error, which, when aimed at, will cause arrows to group in the middle of the target. The point of aim should appear to be resting on the tip of the arrow. If shots are low, move the point of aim towards the target. If high, move toward the archer. Shots to the right or left may be adjusted by the archer moving slightly forward or backward along the shooting line, or by moving the point of aim to the right or left as may be required. When point of aim is established, mark toe positions on all shots from this distance should be made from the same position. In long-range shooting, the point of aim is on or above the target. So that's pretty neat. If you could put a rock down there, you put your arrow on the rock. That's really big for gap shooters, because I know when I shot gap, when I was doing my heavyweight bows, my arrow was like on the ground and forward by like 4 feet. So, if you got the corner of the wall there, it wasn't even in the corner, it was short of that. And that was always a little tricky to find that exact distance. So if you could, like they said, mark it somehow, and you got something to work off of. All right, the next 2 pages, they cover other ways. The bow sight, right? They tell you how to put a bow sight. A bow sight, is the name, as the name applies, is a sight which is attached to the back of the bow. You know what that is? If that's duct tape, I heard a great one. Duct tape is just West Virginia chrome. I thought that was funny. All right, to the back of the bow, just above the handle, usually by the method illustrated above. It has vertical and horizontal adjustments, and it is a very effective method of aiming from fixed distances, especially for the short ranges. And to use the line of vision is through the sight to the bullseye. Since the archer does not look over the tip of the arrow in aiming with the sight, there is a tendency not to get the arrow back to full draw each time. Interesting point. There is also a tendency to overemphasize aiming at the expense of correct shooting form. That's so true. Both of these tendencies should be guarded against. I like that because that's true. You know, people think when you got a sight, especially like rifles and pistols, that you can't miss. And man, I see them miss all the time. You know, like anything else, good form trumps everything. All right, boys and girls, here we come to the big one. Hunting an instinctive method of shooting. After gaining a proficiency at target shooting, move close to the target and learn to shoot instinctive shooting. Notice that? He tells you to learn to aim and shoot at a target before you start instinctive. Wow, that's some dang good advice because people do it the other way around, right? Let's do that again. After gaining proficiency at target shooting, move close to the target to learn instinctive shooting. The point of aim or bow sight is not used. Practice until bow and hand automatically finds the correct elevation. Same underjaw anchor as in shooting the target is desirable, but some archers raise anchor to position about mouth high as illustrated, since it is easier to judge elevation at close ranges this way. See that? They were doing it back then, and you know it's just natural progression. They went from the chin, mouth, cheek, you name it. They're bringing it up because they knew getting that arrow closer to the eye, it really helps, right? So, says, right? Let's see after that. But some archers raise the anchor position about mouth high as illustrated, since it's easier to judge elevation at close ranges this way. With high anchor, tilt the head a bit to bring the right eye directly over the arrow to line up with target. Both eyes open and top of the bow cannon to the right. To aim, concentrate on the smallest part of the target. Aim small, miss small, right? Draw arrow in proper alignment. See arrow and bow hand indirectly. Oh, sacrilege! You don't see it. Right there he tells you, you see it. See arrow and bow hand indirectly. With both eyes open and focus on the target. It takes considerable practice to become proficient, but like target shooting, you must develop sameness. Man, that's good. That's some dang good advice right there. Practice alone is not enough. Oh man, did this guy know his stuff or what? Entire process of drawing, anchoring, aiming, and releasing is one fast, continuous movement. But all these phases of shooting come fully into play. Man, that's some dang good advice right there. I'll tell you what, I like that. That one there, that's just solid advice. So after giving you all that advice, the next thing he does, he tells you your care of your equipment, how to take care of it. All right, we're going to go over these briefly. But one, never overdraw your bow. That's a good one, right? Your bow may be more efficient for your arrow length if it is never drawn past it. Never draw the bow without an arrow on the string, as you may overdraw and break the bow. A bow at full draw is sometimes considered to be 8/10 of the hole broken. I never heard that. That's pretty cool, which is true, right? Another inch may seriously damage or break it. 2, always unstring your bow after shooting. Otherwise, it will make a permanent set and impair the cast. The bow is said to take set when it does not straighten when unstrung. Never try to straighten a bow by bending it backwards, as it is injurious to the fibers of the wood and may also break the bow at the handle tips. Yeah, this is before backing, fiberglass, and all that. But you know what? Still good advice. 3. Well, I've shot in 0 degrees and below with his bows. In cold weather, do not pull your bow to full draw position until it has been flexed gradually. Sudden strain on cold wood is liable to cause it to splinter. The bow should be laid flat or suspended when not in use rather than stood on end. Well, that I knew. I knew that from woodworking. Yeah, you gotta, just like our bodies, you gotta warm it up. And I just sit there, I hold my string and I bounce it up and down just to get some flex in it before you use it. Right? Number 4, replace worn strings before there is a danger of breakage. Often the bow is broken at the handle when the string breaks. Strings that are not latex should be waxed with Boyer's wax. That's pretty simple, right? So let's cover the arrows. Keep your arrow shaft straight. Well, Sounds simple, but you know what? People still don't do it. To straighten, heat shafts over a hot plate. Obviously, we're talking about wood arrows, which I know Ben preferred. Never over an open flame. And after the shaft is heated, hold in left hand and straighten over the base of the left thumb. You can determine the straightness of your arrows by sighting them down and slowly turning them. A little wax in the foreshaft will preserve the finish of the arrow. Steel plies may be kept free of rust by rubbing with an oil rag. That's interesting. Protect the feathers of your arrow. Let's see how they said this. Do not leave arrows in the quiver, as feathers tend to be pressed out of shape, although they usually may be brought back into shape by steaming slightly and smoothing out. Okay, he tells you don't leave your... Well, that's one rule I don't follow. So on the back page, they give us some information. And then one I find funny, bows for beginners. Well, don't you already got the bow? So it's a little late now, right? But maybe you could get this free. They probably gave them out at archery shops. Use very light bows. Oh, what? You don't start with an 80-pound bow? Preferably never over 20 pounds. Look at that. Bow weight is the force in pounds required for drawing the bow full length of a definite length arrow for the individual. Arrows for advanced. Arrows matched in spine and weight and match the bow if possible. Basic advice. An individual shoots the same length arrow with any bow at any distance. Sacrilege! The weight of the bow is determined by the individual's physical ability. The bow should be no heavier than his muscles are able to draw. Yeah, people don't bone by that. Now this is cute. Chart for determining correct arrow length. Height, girls, and boys. Let's see. I guess I've fallen the boy cat. Oh no, here we go. Advanced archers will use the same length arrows, but somewhat heavier bows as follow. Men 30 to 40 pounds. Women 20 to 30 pounds. Look at that. They're telling guys only use 40-pound bows, not 50s, 60s, and 70s. That is interesting. Right? Then they give you some publications if you want to get more stuff. And then the last one, Ben Pearson says, be careful. Follow these safety tips. Never point your bow at any person, even in fun. Never shoot an arrow in the air. A fallen arrow is just as dangerous as when it's flying level. Well, I violated that one a lot of times as a kid. Always shoot at a target. Then you can count your score like the big national experts do. Well, I grew up in the Midwest with nothing. We did sky shooting. Always place your target against a high, solid wall. Solid wall. You know, I could see people today shooting in a brick and suing the guy. Do not pinch the arrow between thumb and finger to shoot. I think he was talking about some of those other draws. See, he was slamming them back then. Be sure to read and follow all instructions and have a great day. Accidents don't just happen. They are caused by carelessness or neglect. Woohoo! All right, now that you got your safety briefing, you can go out there and shoot. All right, everybody, there you have it. The pamphlet, it's pretty cool. Look, it is outdated in many ways. And I know people say, well, you got YouTube, you got all this. Yeah, we do. And you know what? There's still people out there that think the earth is flat. Right? You know, in the Army, we are always taught lowest common denominator. You don't set things up and train for the smart people. You go for the one lowest on the line. And that's how I approach archery. When I teach it, the big thing in teaching, you know, everybody learns differently, right? And as a good instructor, teacher, whatever you want to call it, you got to identify how that person learns and work that way. I've seen so many people who are so set in their teaching that they can't deviate from it. You know, they go A, B, C, D, E. Now, some of us have a hard time learning, right? And as you know, people learn three ways. All they got to do is either hear it or read about it, and they can just do it. Then you have those who have to actually see it to do it. Then there's those like me who has to not only see it, but actually do it to understand it. And you got to work around that. And that's what I'm talking about. People don't get, you know, when you don't put instructions in it, you just think everybody's going to know, or you should know, you're doing a great disservice and you're frustrating people, and people are going to turn away on it. I believe in letting everybody shoot. Shoot how you want, but let's get more instructions out there. So this is a cool blast from the past. I thought it was pretty fun. You know, the point of aim thing, that's pretty cool, using a stick. and how they talked about instinctive, how you should learn to aim first, then shoot instinctive, which I found to be very true. Drawing without using your hand or back, it's a lever to pull back. Interesting stuff. Anchoring here, you can see, I understand that's for Olympic archery. He's talking target, they're shooting at distance. That's why they did it. But then he later talked about here. Now, people go there. So it's pretty cool. That's why I don't like the term traditional, because archery is always growing. It's always changing. We had this discussion because people were talking about, a crossbow isn't a bow. It's not archery. And I go, well, yeah, it is. Because you know why? A minigun is as far away from any rifle and pistol you can get, but it's still a gun. It's just a plethora of different varieties in all different ways. And that's what I really love about it. I love watching people shooting their own way. Now, what I get in trouble in is when they complain or make a comment that they're not shooting as well as they wanted or something like that. Well, look, if you want to shoot and hit those little dime-sized targets on a World Archery face, you're going to have to do certain things, because over time it's been proven those certain things are the way to do it. Yes, there's the occasional exception, and there's the key rule. It's the exception, not the rule. And that's where people get all mixed up. I understand that. And look, I ain't always trying to hit that dime, right? I'm just having fun, so I don't have to do all that stuff. I do other stuff. Personally, for me, I like to shoot about a 6-inch group. That's the size of a 10 ring on a 3D target, and to me, it's just a good group, and I'm happy with that. So for me to get to there, I don't have to do the same things the person trying to hit that dime does. I got a little more leeway, and that's how it is. All right, enough of my defense, because I don't need to defend myself. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. All right, here's my website right here. Check it out. You can find out about archery courses all across the country, ranges both public and private, archery events, archery festivals, and so much more at 3darchery.net. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you next time with an all-new episode of 3D Archery. All right, so I got this little pamphlet. Why doesn't it talk about how to deal with YouTube subscribers? Guess they didn't have that problem back then.